my crafty friends. I'm so excited you're joining me for another video today. My name is Carrie and I want to welcome you to my channel. Y'all, I know you're going to love this video because I'm going to share with you my secret on how to create these gorgeous wood trays and wood cutting boards that look like they've been cut on a laser, but they're not. These cutting boards make a great addition to your home decor, but y'all, they're even better when you give them as gifts. So think birthdays, anniversaries, wedding gifts. I mean, so many options. Even the person that has everything will love and appreciate a personalized cutting board. Y'all, I know this project may look a little bit intimidating, but I promise you I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly what you need to make your very own cutting board. And I'm also going to give you some of my pro tips to make sure it turns out great the first time. Before we get started, I do want to say a big thank you to Cricut for sponsoring today's video. So that's enough talking, y'all. Let's start DIYing.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is open up my Cricut design space. I've got a blank canvas here, but I've gone ahead and added in my M. The font that I used is the Soiree lettering in Olivia. I really love this font. So the next thing I'm going to do is to draw a square. Now, there are probably other ways of doing this, but this is one of the easiest ways that I have found. So we're going to unlock the square, and then we're going to drag it out into a rectangle. I'm going to be really careful to get this centered between the entire letter. And once that is done, I'm going to select all of my pieces and I'm going to weld those together. Now, once they are welded together, I'm going to actually make another square. I'm going to change the color just so that it's easier for y'all to see. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the first one. I'm going to unlock it, and this time I'm going to stretch it out a little bit larger, and I'm going to make it just a little bit skinnier. This is going to give me my bars in between my initial so that we can put our name in that space. So next we're going to group everything together and we're going to slice it. Once it's all sliced, we're going to pull away our finished piece that we want to keep, and then we're going to delete everything else. And y'all, that's how easy it is to make a monogram initial that you can put your last name in the center. And you can do this with any letter. Isn't that easy? So next I'm going to type in my last name of Morris, and I'm going to move that and center it up in the middle. I'm actually wanting it a little bit larger, so I'm going to unlock that, and then I'm going to stretch it out. One feature that I sometimes forget that is offered in Cricut Design Space is that you can center your design vertically and horizontally. I'm just sort of used to centering it myself, but you can actually select all of your pieces that you want to center, and you can click on center horizontally and center vertically, and that does the hard work for you. But like I said, I sometimes forget that it's got that feature. It's a great time saver. Okay, y'all, this is almost done. Now all I've got to do is to resize it to the size that I need, and to do that I'm going to unclick my lock button and I'm going to make it the size it needs to be. Now you can stretch it out using your arrows, but it's easier if you just type in the size you need up at the top. Okay, that's perfect. Now it's time to make it. I've gone ahead and loaded up my mat with my transparent premium vinyl, and I'm using that because once I start putting my stain on, it's going to make it a lot easier to see. You can use any color you want, but my personal preference for this project is the transparent. But that's totally up to you if you want to use a color. Okay, so now I've got it weeded out, and I will admit The transparent is a little bit hard for the camera to pick up because it's clear on top of white, but you can see that I pulled out the reverse that I would normally pull out for a decal. I actually pulled out what I would normally keep, so we're actually pulling out the reverse. Okay, I've got my transfer tape onto my vinyl, and now we're just going to center that up on our cutting board. Now, I did go ahead and wipe my cutting board down with an alcohol. If you have a wax or anything on that cutting board, you do want to take a little bit of light sandpaper or even some steel wool and just sort of knock that down so that your stain can penetrate. Okay, once we get this centered up, we're going to use our scraper and scrape everything down so that it's nice and stuck. You do want to make sure that you are pressing down really hard. That's going to make your transfer tape easier to come off, and it's also going to make sure that your premium vinyl is stuck down really well. Okay, so now let's pull off that transfer tape, and I know the camera looks like there's nothing there, but I'm going to pick it up and let you see that it actually is. Now y'all, don't throw away this transfer tape. This is actually still really sticky, and you can use this for other projects. Okay, see, when I pick this up, you can see the design faintly. That clear vinyl is really transparent, but it's a lot easier to see in person. The camera just doesn't really pick it up. Okay, now here's a pro tip for you. Take your blow dryer and you're going to warm up your premium vinyl so that it is nice and stuck. You can use your fingers or your hands, or you can use your scraper to press down one more time. This is a super important step, and you don't want to leave this part out, or else you might get some seepage with your stain. Okay, I don't see any air bubbles, so now we can move on. I like to use a gel stain for this part. You could try using a normal stain, but to be honest, I've never tried the pens or the regular stain. I just usually stick with the gel stain in a dark walnut color. You could even use an ebony if you wanted it just a little bit darker. It's totally up to you. But a walnut gel stain is what I'm going to be using today and what I normally use for all of mine. Okay. Now we're going to use a flat paintbrush. If you want to, you can use a foam dome brush or just a regular foam brush, but I like the way the texture that a flat brush gives. And y'all, this is another tip for you. Don't go up and down. You want to just dab and do a tapping motion, and you want to get your stain worked into all of the grooves, but you don't want to brush it. That is going to be detrimental. Do not brush up or down or side to side. You just want to use this tapping motion. If you go side to side, you might get seepage underneath your stencil, and that's not going to be good. We want nice, crisp lines. We want to make it look like it was laser etched. We're going to go all the way around. You do want to work sort of quickly. You don't want to let your stain dry. It usually takes about 5 minutes for your stain to develop, but it's been about 3 or 4 already, and I just want to pull a little bit of the stain off to see how it's looking. And it's not quite dark enough, so I'm actually going to put the stain back on there, and we're going to leave it on for another 2 or 3 minutes. You just want to make sure that your stain does not dry. If your stain happens to dry, you're not going to get that look you want. So you want to make sure that you pull all of the stain off before it's dried. Okay. So now our 5 minutes is up, and I'm going to take my rag and I'm just going to lift off. You want to remove the excess. Again, you don't want to rub this stain. You just want to tap it and pat it. Rubbing it could cause it to seep underneath that stencil, and that's going to not give us that crisp line that we're looking for. So I have found that just using a tapping motion is going to give the best results. I'm just using an old washcloth. Okay. Now once we get all of this done, you want to let this dry for a few minutes before you try to remove your film. If you take it up while your stain is still wet, you're going to get some runs. If you want to, you can even take your blow dryer and hit it for just a few minutes to make sure that it's totally dry. I know right now it looks like I have wrecked this cutting board, but y'all wait until the magic happens. It never ceases to amaze me. I love doing these cutting boards so much. If you look at your color and you want it to be just a little bit darker, you could actually go over it another time, but I am totally digging the color that it is with one coat, so I'm just going to leave. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes. Now it's time to take off that vinyl. Y'all, look at this. Would you have ever guessed that this was such an easy project? All you've got to do is to just pull off all of this vinyl very carefully, and don't forget to take off the pieces in the center. I forgot the little piece on the bottom of the M. Whoopsie. Okay, y'all, this cutting board is done. This looks like a super expensive custom monogram cutting board that you would pay at least $30 for, and I think I paid $6.99 for it at Ross. Alright y'all, this project is done, so I'm going to hop over into Cricut Design Space and go ahead and knock out these other two projects. So I found this groovy jellyfish already in Design Space. I just put it on my canvas, and I also found this Life's a Beach, Enjoy the Waves sign. I love that saying, so that's what I'm going to use on my tray. I'm going to resize these, and I'm going to turn them both to the color black so I can put them on one mat. Once my mat comes up, I'm actually going to move over this Life's a Beach sign because I want a little bit more of my vinyl to show. That way I don't get stain on my project. So now it's time to cut. I did use that same transparent vinyl like I did in the previous project, just because it's easier for me. Again, you can use any color that your little heart desires. Clear just happens to be my go-to for these types of projects. These two trays that I picked up from Ross were super cheap, but they had a logo on the bottom of them, and that was kind of nasty, so I did not want that to show through, so I just sanded it down, and now I'm ready to put on my vinyl. The stain is going to cover up the rest of that logo, so I'm really not worried about it. I'm going to apply the stain in the same motion that we did in the previous project. Again, doing a tap, tap, tap motion, and not a side to side or a brush motion. You just want to tap that stain on. And don't be afraid to go kind of heavy with the stain. It'll absorb, and then you're going to wipe off the excess just like we did in the previous project. Wait for it to dry and then peel off your vinyl, and voila! This is another project done. I'm going to let this stain dry for at least 24 hours, and then I'm going to take some tung oil or some beeswax and just seal that back in since we went ahead and sanded off the back finish. Okay, now for our Life's a Beach, Enjoy the Waves tray. I decided to use the front of this one because I'm only going to be using it for decoration purposes. I don't plan on putting any food on this one. If you do want to put food on your tray fronts, I would advise you to just do your own research and find out which finishes are food safe and which ones are not. Okay, y'all, here are all three of our projects complete. Which one is your favorite? Let me know down in the comments below. I honestly cannot decide. I love them all. They're so beautiful, and they were so quick and so easy, and from a distance they totally look like they were laser etched, don't they? I'm so in love with these.
That does it for today's video, y'all. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up because that would mean the world to me. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, consider hitting that subscribe button down below and turn on all those notifications if you don't want to miss the next DIY I've got coming your way. So are you going to give this project a try? Let me know down in the comments below. Until next time, happy DIYing, y'all.